Okay, good afternoon, good evening, or even good morning where you are. This is Gareth from the iMoot team. I'd like to welcome Floyd Sana, who will be giving a presentation on external tools and LTI. Enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone. I'd like to be certain you can hear me well enough, so if a couple of you would just type a message in the chat window and let me know how my voice is coming across. Okay, getting some good feedback here. That's great. I'm going to give this presentation on external tools and LTI. A little bit about me. Right now, I'm an e-learning consultant. I've had about 25 years in higher education as a professor of computer science, but also doing some administration work and working in educational technology. But I do a lot of work with Moodle now. I'm located in northern Indiana in the United States, and it's actually a rather cool mid-50 degrees Fahrenheit rainy day right now, which is not untypical for northern Indiana. So I'm going to talk about external tools and LTI. And to be very honest, this is just something that I found recently. Yes. Was there a question or comment? Frank, I believe I saw your audio light up. Okay. I just fairly recently started investigating external tools in LTI, and as I mentioned in the description, it's something that I think is very often overlooked in Moodle because many people don't understand it or don't work with it. In this brief session we're going to have here, I'm not going to have enough time to give you a lot of details or make you experts in LTI, but I hope to at least whet your appetites, and perhaps those of us who are here can start sharing information and helping each other. There are some resources, and I must give a lot of credit to people like Gavin Henrik, Joe Thibault, Troy Patterson, people who have been doing a lot with LTI, and right here we have an expert. It looks like Francois has jumped in and said she's an LTI fan. So, Francois, if I make mistakes, you can be, a fan, not an expert. Okay. So, first of all, what is LTI? It is a set of standards developed by the IMS Global Learning Consortium. And I have a link there in these notes where you can go and look at it. They're nothing more than a set of standards that define procedures for sharing learning applications, which IMS Global calls tools. So in the LTI language, you will hear about a tool provider and a tool consumer. And the provider is the client, the server, the entity that provides the learning tool, and the consumer is the one who accesses that. And I have another link here where you can go in and look at the IMS Global description of LTI. And since that's all available on the web, I'm not going to take time to go through that now. The important aspects to remember about LTI, one is there is a tool provider, and that is the entity that makes the application available on their own server platform. And then there is a tool consumer, and that is the entity that accesses or embeds the tool provider content in a learning environment, such as Moodle or any other LMS. The content runs on the tool provider server. It's not installed in your LMS. It's not on your LMS server. The content is displayed within your LMS context. And so what's very nice about this is you don't have to set anything, or the setup is very minimal. you can just access this content and boom, it's right inside your LMS, which will be Moodle in this case. What are the capabilities of LTI? Why not just link and go to their site? Well, of course, we access the content. The content can be open or restricted by a shared key. Now, I will show you a number of open resources. There are also a number of closed or subscription resources. And these would be resources provided by some third party that they might be science quizzes, they might be something about arts. And you need a key, a shared key. And you usually purchase a subscription to their service. And there's also a way to exchange limited information between the provider and the consumer. Login information, grades, and so on. And I will give a couple examples of that. So let's go now and just quickly look at some examples. So I am going to switch to share my screen. And now, are you able to see my screen? Okay, here we go. Hold on. Little windows keep popping up here. I'm now sharing my desktop. Are you able to see my screen? Would someone reply verbally or just, yes, okay, you can see my screen. Great. So here are some LTI examples that I've embedded in a Moodle course, and this is Moodle 2.6, I believe. So here is a TED Ed example.
When I was in 4th grade, my teacher said to us one day.
Okay, I'll stop that there. The one question might be, well, why can't I just go to TED Ed and embed their video? It's a YouTube video, and you can do that. But as I go through and show you how to set up these LTI tools, you'll see that there are ways to search for content, and it just makes it so much easier even than embedding something in your course. So let's go back to our demonstration. Here's another for a K-12 site. This one has functions and equations in Spanish. Notice that this one is appearing inside the course with my blocks to the left. The prior one did not have blocks to the left. And so this is a book. In Spanish, and you can go down and read through the book, okay? All inside of my course. Now I'll go back. There's another one I have. Waiting for the course. Another one on literature. Writing about literature, the basics, and this is embedded in the course. Now we can also make these pop up in a new window, and that actually would be my recommendation for most of the resources that you use, because it gives you more real estate. It just takes up the whole screen and it's easier to navigate. But all of these are LTI plugins. Here's a public collections LTI. And this is just some games that I was able to pick up. And then I'll do one more. And this one is from Khan Academy.
We're in the National Gallery in London, and we're looking at a Jan van Eyck portrait of a man with a...
Okay, so those are some demonstrations of LTI components. Now I need to stop sharing my screen. I believe you should now see the presentation. Is that correct? I presume someone will say if they don't. Yep, okay. Where do you find LTI tools? Remember, these are components created by third parties. And here are some places you could go. This one, IMS Global Certified Tools. Let's see here, if I click on that, I now have to go back. What I'm going to do is go back and open these in new windows, and then I will share my screen again. I'm now going to share my screen. Okay, you should be seeing my screen at this point, I believe. So here is the IMS Global Learning Consortium page with tools that are available. Some of these would then be services you would have to subscribe to, such as learning objects and so on. So there are quite a few here. The other is this Edu Apps, and this is nice. They list many, many resources available, and you can sort by category, you can sort by grade level. It's interesting, by platforms, Moodle's not listed in this. However, if it's set up according to the LTI standard, that's no problem. It should work on any LMS. If they're using the LTI provider standards, it doesn't matter. It'll work on any LMS. So if you want to look at things that are completely free or open content, you would just sort by there, and then you'll notice there are a number of resources available. And I'll go to this Edu Apps, which is another place. Again, Atomic Learning was at the Midwest Moodle Moot last year. They provide things, tutorials for various software and so on. There's a big blue button, Blackboard Collaborate, Darkwire, ChemVantage, CK12, and so on. Now, what I like about this page is if you see a little key down at the bottom, that means it requires a shared key, and it may be a subscription service, or you may have to do some other setup. If there's no key, such as this CK12, notice there's no key here, that means that you can just go in and use it without that. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we'll go to our next slide. And now that we know a little bit about LTI, how do we configure Moodle as an LTI consumer? Well, ever since Moodle 2.2, Moodle is configured to be an LTI consumer. There's really nothing that you have to do. It is there. And you just add the tool as a course activity. You add an activity external tool. And here's where things get a little confusing sometimes. Even within Moodle, sometimes you'll see some documentation that says LTI, and other places it'll be external tool. So the nomenclature is not consistent. Excuse me. And site admins can pre-configure LTI sources, and I'll give some examples of that. So what do we need to do to add an LTI tool to Moodle? Well, the first thing you need is the launch URL and keys. And one thing that will be very confusing at first is most LTI providers give you a configuration URL. That is an XML file. For some reason, the Moodle configuration does not read that configuration URL properly. And so you need the launch URL. If you put the configuration URL into Moodle, Moodle will generate an error, and it will report back with the launch URL. So I'll show you two ways to do that. And then you just create a new activity and you supply the information. It's that simple. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to share my desktop again. Let's see. Okay, I should be sharing my desktop. So let's go back to this Edu Apps, and let's start out by going to the Internet Archive. I click on that, and notice here they give this configuration URL, and that is what I talked about. If you go to the full end, notice this is a config.xml file. And so that's going to generate an error. If we copy that, though, and then I go back to my course, where did my course go? Here we go. That's this one. I'm going to turn editing on. And let's come down here. We'll just add a new one in topic 3. So in Moodle, you don't look for LTI, you look for the external tool. And you give it a name. And I'm going to call this Internet Archive, since that is what I'm setting up. You can keep this to the default for most cases. You can also, in advance, set up links that would then appear here in a drop list, but for now I'm going to use automatic. And I'm going to paste this config XML file. What do I want to do? This file, if we go back, notice that I'm now back at this Internet Archive. It says any key and secret will work for this app. So it's totally open. So what I often do there, I just type key in there, and I just type secret here. If you need that consumer key and secret, that will be provided for you. What about privacy? For now, I'm going to say I don't want to share anything from the launchers. There you go. And for now, we'll say save and display. Here is the error message that pops up if you use that XML file. What you need is this launch URL, which is right here. Oops. I'm going to copy that. But I also want to show you where you can find this launch URL. If you see that there is a config XML file, I'm going to open that in a new tab in my browser. Here's the XML file. And what you would do is you would read down through that and look for the launch URL. And right here is that same launch URL. And actually, Moodle is identifying that inside the XML file and giving it to you. So that is what you want. So either you put in the XML file, get the error, copy the proper thing, and plug that in, or you just go here and you select and copy this from the XML file. So let's go back here then and go to my course and come down here where we're doing Internet Archive, and now I need to edit the settings. And in here, I now put in that link. This annoys me. I don't know why it's this way. If any of you have any ideas, let me know. So we now have that set up with that proper tool, and we will save and display. Now we're in the Internet Archive, and what happens when you go into these resources and archives, it very often lets you search for a particular item. So I'm going to go in and let's just search the Internet Archive for Moodle. And look here, here is in the archive, Podcasting with the Moodle Guru. So I will click to embed this. And what that has done is now automatically embedded it. It's selected that resource from the Internet Archive. And this is just a notice. This is where your users will go. So now if I go back to the course, and now when I click on this link, I'm going to go to that, and it's going to be in my course. Notice I'm still embedded in my course. Here is the audio file.
I'm Tim Wilson, and you're listening to the Savvy Technologist Podcast for November 9th, 2005. What's it meant for the project?
It's paramount. It's absolutely important. Firstly, because I read a lot of Albert Toffler back in the day, and the thing about electronic about data and software is that the production cost is zero. So once you've actually...
So that's Martin Dugiamas back in 2005 talking about Moodle. And this is all now inside my course. So that was one example. Let's try another example. So let's go to here. Go back. And there is another one. It's BrainPOP, okay? So here's what I do sometimes. You can do this, click here to preview what it's about. Again, here is this configuration URL. So I would likely copy that. And what I end up doing now is just pasting that and picking out this launch URL right here. Okay. Now I'm going back to my course, and we'll add an activity or resource, and we will then do external tool again. And I know this is going to be BrainPOP. And we will paste that in. Now I'm going to say, let's do a new window this time, okay? And again, we didn't need any key, we didn't need any secret, so we just I put in key and secret. Privacy, they have no need at this point to okay. Save and display. So now I'm into BrainPOP in a new window, and again, it's letting me select a tool inside here. So let's just do color, okay? So I will select that. Again, it has told me that this is now linked, and since this is in a new window, I'm going to close it. Let's go back, and we will come down, and I will click on my BrainPOP link. It opens in a new window, and we can now access this resource.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tim, and this is my pal Moby, and we're here to tell you all about...
So that is how you would create or link to something in Moodle. Now, I did want to show you something else also. You can link to a WordPress blog, and it takes quite a bit of work to set this up. I worked with my son, who's a WordPress expert, and it took us really about 2 hours to figure it all out. Now that we know how to do it, we can do it in about 10 minutes. But what I can do is click here. Now, I believe I have this open in a new window, but right in my Moodle course, I'm now connecting to a WordPress blog. And so I can go right in here. Whoops, I wanted to go to this comment actually. And so I can add a comment here. Okay, and I post that, and now that's in the blog. Now the interesting thing is, right here is my post. I can go in here as another person and I am going to log in as another user. And Anna can go in here to the LTI demonstration course. Anna can also go to this WordPress site. Here is the comment made by Floyd. Notice that I'm logged in as Anna Tech, just because Anna was the one logged into that Moodle course. And okay, and Anna can post that. So there's just a lot of power here of being able to tie into other sites and other contexts. If I would reload this, we should probably now be able to see here's the post by Anna. If I would go to this site, I would be able to see that even outside the Moodle context. Now going to go back. And stop sharing my screen. Okay. So are there any questions at this point about what I've shown so far? I'll just pause here for a couple seconds to see if anybody posts something in the chat window. And Gareth, when do I end? That's something I should keep in mind here as we're going along. Okay, Arno asked whether LTI Tools can integrate with the Moodle gradebook. Theoretically, yes. I don't have an example of that, but I will show you an example here in the end. You should be able to pass grades back, and usually that's with the subscribed services. And I haven't paid for any subscribed services so far. But yes, it is supposed to be able to go back and integrate with that it would report grades back. Gareth or Fred, someone, when do I need to end?
Hi, Floyd. You've got plenty of time. You've got another even an hour, 45 minutes if you wish. Plenty of time for questions. Please do continue.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's go now to another really neat feature about this. Oh, I forgot I had this slide here. Site admins can add activity modules and set these up for teachers. That's an important thing too. So let me go back here and share my screen again. And what you do if you want to set up sites as a system administrator. So let's say you want to provide tools to your teachers or your faculty, and you don't want them to have to figure out how to copy that XML file and decode all of that stuff and so on. You do that by going to Site Administration, Plugins, activity modules. And here is now where they use the term LTI instead of external tools. And so, again, there's a problem here in consistency with the terms. But if I go to LTI as a system administrator, notice I have one here for Chem Advantage, and I can add an external tool configuration. So here is the same screen that the teacher would have seen, but you as a system administrator can set this up. So let's go in here and just do this sample. Well, let's call this the Internet Archive, or Internet Archive. Okay. And let's see, where was that? And here is the launch URL. This was the BrainPOP, okay. So I'm going back now, I'm the system administrator. This was the BrainPOP. And so I would put this in. Okay, we'll just add, we could do the privacy. This would say that the teacher could decide when the teacher's setting up the tool, or we could force something here. I'm going to save those changes. Now, since this has been set up as one, oops, and I forgot something that's in my notes here. You do want to say show the tool type when creating tool instances. If that is not selected, teachers won't be able to see this link. Now, let me go back to the course. And now, if I'm going to do another one, let's say I would do external tool. And I'm going to call this BrainPOP 2. Now, when I go in here, notice that global tool types, these are other ones I have set up in the course, but now this is one that the system admin did. And I just select it, and then I don't have to worry about all that other stuff. And I can go here, and now I can search the collections, and let's do some time signatures. Fine. I've done it. And we'll come down and do BrainPOP 2. And there it is. So that quickly, by having sysadmin set up these links in advance, you can see how in about 5 seconds I was able to link to a course or a resource. I'm now going to stop sharing my screen. Now we get to the screen. Moodle as an LTI provider. This is just really, really neat. So Moodle as an LTI consumer is built into Moodle. And Francois, I see you ask the question. What a good segue here. Juan Leila has written an LTI provider plugin for Moodle. And let me go there and go there. So what you do is you download and install the plugin, and this ends up in site administration, plugins, local plugins, LTI provider. Then you need to configure according to the instructors and give instructors the ability to create instances. And then you can share content between Moodle courses, even though they're on totally different servers. And you could even share between different learning management systems. So let's say you have a colleague who's teaching at some other school or university, and they are using Sakai. And you say, well, I have this neat learning activity that I created in Moodle. By using this plugin, Moodle can be the LTI provider. The person using Sakai would be the LTI consumer, and you can share an entire course or even an individual resource in your course. So this gets very, very powerful, and I'm going to demonstrate that right now. I'm going to share my desktop again. Okay, and yeah, it's sharing it. So these are the instructions for the LTI Provider tool. It's quite detailed. I really did not have much difficulty following this. There are a couple of things that's very important here that you will want to allow frame embedding. And then the plugin itself is right here. It's available for everything up to 2.6. I presume 2.7 will be available quite soon. Juan does a very good job of keeping this updated. So how would I do this? Let me close a bunch of my windows here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going into a different course. So here is a course, an introduction to online teaching, that I developed for some people who were new to creating online resources. And the plugin is installed in this course. So if I go here to Site Administration, Plugins, Local Plugins. Remember, this one goes into the local plugin area, and I go to LTI Provider. So I have set this up. I'm delegating things. No login is required. You can set it up so that you can have logins automatically set up, email, self-registration, so on. The one thing that you do want to do, the default roles allowed to create resources and context is administrator, and I also add instructor to that. Okay. Now I'm going back to this course. And after you have configured this and said instructors can set up resources, over in your course administration block, down near the bottom, you will see the LTI provider link. So what I'm going to do is set up a resource, and right now there's nothing. I'm going to add something. Notice that I can provide the entire course, or I can do anything within the course, even a label. Okay? I can send grades back, so on. So what I'm going to do at this point is set up this survey right here. What experience do you have with online learning? That was a Moodle feedback survey, so I'm going to take that activity, send the grades back. Now, notice it has generated a shared secret. Very important that you copy that, because that is the key that's going to allow the authentication link back and forth between the system users. That's nothing, the standard roles, and we are done. So now notice that I have the shared secret key, and here is the launch URL. That is just the link into my tool. Now, over here, I'm going to a different course. I'm going to log out here. Anna can log out of this. But I have another server. This Moodle server, 2.7 server, is totally separate. It's not even on the same hosting platform as the one where that teaching online course is. So it's not that these are on the same server, they're not in the same environment. This course that you see right now is actually on Bluehost, The other course is being hosted by eClass for Learning in Wisconsin, so they're totally separate. I'm going to log in. And this is a Moodle 2.7 server. The other one is a 2.6. I'm going to go into this course. And now, what I want to do is create a link to the LTI tool that is being provided by that other course. So I just go through this same process here. I go to an external tool. And Teaching Online Survey. Show more. Now remember, I copied that secret key. All right, there it is. Now I need to go back to my other server because I also need the launch URL. So I'm going back here, and right here is that launch URL. So I'm going to copy that. Now going back to the other course, I would type the launch URL in there. Okay. Now the consumer key really isn't needed. You can think of the consumer key as a username and the shared secret as a password. So you really don't need here. You can just put anything. Okay. And privacy, we're going to accept grades. I don't think there's anything else we need. And I'm now going to save and return to the course. I now have a link called Teaching Online Survey. This is in my sample 01 course on a Moodle 2.7 server. I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log back in here as Anatech student. Now, I am going to jump over to the other course. You're going to have to, I'll try and be very clear about where I am, and the two courses look different. So this is the tool consumer course, logged in by Anatech. You can see Anatech up here at the top. I'm now jumping over to my other browser, and this is my Teaching Online course on a Moodle 2.6 server. I want to show you here, I'm jumping into this survey and show responses, and there are no responses. Okay. I'm now going to jump back to my 2.7 server where I'm logged in as a student on Anatech. Anatech is going to click on this Teaching Online survey. And notice it takes that object, that resource, from my 2.6 course right here, and it embeds that up here in my 2.7 Moodle course. So it has taken that 2.6 survey on a totally different server, totally different course, and put it in here. Anna can click on Answer the Questions. And she has to log in. There is a way to do automatic login, I believe. Okay, so here we are. I am now inside this course. Hold on, what happened? You know, I've been teaching long enough to say, okay, folks, these things have, this worked several times. What did I not do? Okay, let's edit this. I think, let me see if I need to add that here. I'm not sure. And let me go see if there was a setting here. No, I don't want that stuff. It doesn't matter. Oh, that all looks okay. I'm now jumping back to the other course. And let me go back here. And I'm going to check the setup in the consumer area. Okay, teaching online course, LC Learn, default. All right, it should be linked. I don't know why. So now I am going to log out and go back in as Anatech. Okay, so why is it now working and why did it not work before? I think it was in the setup where I had to create another instance in this course. So anyway, fortunately we're working. I am logged in as Anatech. I am now in my 2.7 course, the Moodle 2.7 beta. This is now embedded from the other course into my course. Anna is going to answer the questions. Have you ever participated as a student? We'll say yes. Have you ever taught? No, I don't use anything. And positive. I'm very excited. So now I'm going to put something here so we know that Anna's doing this. So Anna's outcomes. And so we'll say outcome 1. 2, 3. Okay? Submit your answers. And she has done. And now she's back and she's here in her course. This is embedded and she can go right back into her own course and she's done the survey. Now I'm going to switch back to the course that was the provider for that. Okay. So this is the course that provided that tool to the other course. And I'm now going in here to look at the survey. And I'm going to show responses. And look, here is Anatech's response. And I go in and I can see her answers. And everything is right here. It was reported back to this course and it works. So this gets pretty exciting when you think now about being able to share courses and even individual things back and forth. I am now going to exit full screen. And that's really the end of my presentation. So at this point, it's open for discussion. Let me look at some of the questions here. Happens to the best of us. Thank you, Carrie. Like I say, I've taught long enough that I don't get too rattled with that stuff when something doesn't work. No, you don't, Paula, self-enrollment. I need to do more work on this, but I was able to set it up so that Anna was not in the, oh, hi, Jeff. Anna was not enrolled in that teaching online course. And it automatically created a user for Anna in that learning online course that was the tool provider. So that was interesting. Sure, they can provide the survey later. I'll post that. At this point, Harry, yes, Anna had an account on both sites. That's because I was playing back and forth between the two. But when I first set this up one time, Anna did not have an account on the provider site, but it was able to set up an account for her. It did a synchronization. Does the consumer site also collect the results for the teacher? Dave, can you give a little more information there? Which results? What do you mean? The results? Oh, I see. On does it show up on 2.7 server? Well, now that's interesting. That's a very good question. I now know what you mean. I think not. That is my guess because the link is to that other course. Let me just see what happens here. Aha, yes, because, okay, duh, it's embedding that in here, in this other course, and there it is. Because it's just pulling that whole thing from my teaching online course, and it's showing it right here. So yeah, that makes sense. I should have thought of that. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Share the screen. Yeah. Good. Okay, so let me go back here now to, here is my, here is this course where I set up the LTI consumer, okay? I logged out as Anna, who was a student, and I logged back in as Floyd Admin Saner. Now, what I do is I'm back in this course, I click Teaching Online Survey, and what happens is it embeds from my producer course, provider course, that whole tool. Well, I have everything. Since I'm logged in as the teacher or administrator, I now have access to that tool. It's showing up on the other site because that's where it's hosted. But I come back here, and there are Anna's responses. And you'll see that I am in my 2.7 course right here. Okay. I'm going back to turning that off. So yeah. Can we set it up so the host server, the provider, does not receive the responses? I'm not sure that, I don't know. I would have to look into that, Rhonda. I don't know. If someone else knows, let me know. Yes. The shared secret is what gives access back and forth between the two. And there's a lot more work I need to do in investigating how these account synchronizations occur and what happens with a provider site and what happens with the consumer site. Any other questions? So yeah, Carrie at Randy, you can link multiple sites. It's the key here is that in order to do what I just did, you have to have capability to be a tool provider, and that's what this plugin does that Juan Leva wrote. I have contacted some other learning management system vendors and asked for an account so that I could show sharing information back and forth between two different LMSs. But one of them got back and said, yeah, I would love to do that, but I don't have an account yet. So maybe I'll push him a little harder today and see if this session is repeated tomorrow on Friday in the afternoon, Eastern Daylight Time. I don't know if I'll be able to get access to his system by then.
Okay, if there's no more questions, on behalf of the iMoot team, thank you very much for taking your time, Floyd, to present and share your sort of information on really informative and in-depth content and presentation. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you to all of you for attending.